No, for two reasons, I think. Firstly, we forget that Gaddafi had announced he was going to kill his own people and he was going to chase them like rats down the sewers in Benghazi. I don't think it would have been of any benefit to have stood by and watched that happen. And after that, there's been nearly 4 years of work in Libya for the Libyan people to build up the institutions of a state that Gaddafi had destroyed. And during that time, it was possible for Libya at almost any stage to take a different turn to create the institutions that would have been a defence against IS. So that's the first reason. The second reason, if you want to look at Syria as an example of non-intervention and watch a dictator kill his people, then that's happened there. I think we have to get away from the idea that it's all about us. We are important, but we are not the only factor in deciding what happens to a state with or without a dictator.
But the problem is that people will see that Britain and France and America played a role in overthrowing a dictator, as they did in Iraq as well, but to use Colin Powell's expression, they haven't honoured the rule of the pottery barn, which is if you break it, you pay for it and you help put it together.
I don't think that's entirely true. After the fall of Gaddafi, the Libyans made it very clear they did not want an occupying force. What they wanted was support, which they got, assistance to help build up their security and defence, help to try and create institutions that have been destroyed. Our diplomats have been there, those of other countries have been there. The UN has never left it alone. Bernardino Leon is working now to bring parties together. That's not an entirely fair charge. There's been a lot of work put in, and at various times the militias and the politicians have been in agreement, then fallen out. What is being pressed upon them now is if they cannot come to an agreement, if they cannot take on talks amongst themselves, they will be destroyed and overrun by this force which has been allowed to come in by the Libyan failure to settle their differences and work together. But we have given every help and assistance, will continue to do so, and we have indeed stood by them.
Okay, so what now? As you heard earlier on the programme, Amr Moussa is now saying that the United Nations Security Council needs to get involved against IS. Do you agree with that? And what do you think it should agree? Should it be stepping up military action on the ground, possibly in Libya, but certainly in Syria and Iraq?
Well, I think my friend Amr Moussa is hopeful in relation to the UN Security Council. It hasn't been a good few years for it. I'm struggling to think of a difficult conflict where there is deep resistance from one side or another that the UN Security Council has been able to break. But he is absolutely right in his warning that what the demonstration of appalling power did last night, and it was Copts, but it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, this renegade sect will kill you if you are not like them. I think Amr Moussa is right in saying a corner has been turned by a major Islamic country, perhaps the leader of the Arab world, Egypt, saying enough. We recognise this as a threat to all of us. They are right to take action. They are right now to ask the rest of us, what are we going to do? I'm absolutely convinced that it remains the same sort of fight as happening in Syria and Iraq. It's not only military means, it's ideological, it's theological, to pull down this renegade creed. But it will take some action on the ground in order to stop people who otherwise will go on killing.
And who, in your view, should take that action on the ground?
I think that has to be led by the states that are closest to it, because it's crucial, I think, not to play into the narrative that Daesh, so-called IS, want to see, which is them against the West and them against the Christian world. It's actually them against everyone. If action is taken against them by Muslim-led countries, Jordan, by Egypt, by other Arab states, and they will need the support of all, because, again, a complication, as you will be well aware, is it's not entirely clear that every state thinks the same about those behind Daesh, and states have got to be very clear on whose side they're on. But I'm absolutely convinced that it has to be led by those in the region, and they may well and they should ask coalition and others for support in order to do that job. But I think it's essential now that they take the fight to those who are killing their own people. There's far more Muslims than anyone else being killed by these by this wicked group. and they will kill more. But if the fight is being taken against them by other Muslim states, I think they're right to call upon support, but it's not a quick reaction to this. It's got to be carefully worked through. But if Libya becomes a failed state, I was talking to the Egyptian ambassador this morning, and he made clear, if Libya becomes a failed state, we know what that ungoverned space will be used for, and it's very close to the rest of Europe.